Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to EA Tetragrammaton, where we are playing This is turn 170. 170? I think it's 170. Yeah, 170. And it is gonna be a big turn. So, we got a whole bunch of stuff going on. We're gonna skim through some of this, and then we're going to get to the ones that really matter. And then if we have not won after that, then we will we'll check other stuff and we'll continue on from there. So, a couple of things that do matter are the flames from the sky that we launched out, right? The flame 1 threw a flames from the sky at Sleepy Wolds, and that got blocked. And in doing that, flame 1 gets attacked by an Eater of the Gods, and there's no way that a flame spirit's gonna deal with that, so unfortunate. Flame 9 cast at Urfel, hoping to, diminish or wound some of the forces that might reinforce from there. Killed 39 units, etc., etc., so that's good. Also got attacked by a lesser horror, but succeeded in fending them off. We got pegged by a arrow, but we survived. We did Mind Hunt, but did not get it, unfortunately. And then we get attacked by a Gore-Tide Horror. Iron Skin up. Now, Gore-Tide Horrors are really dangerous because of the amount of regeneration that they have, but as long as we are able to close, because of the firebrand that we have, right, we hit pretty hard, so generally okay. And generally speaking, they can't deal enough damage to really mess with us. Living Earth, unfortunate. So, these guys are not big enough to trample the Gore-Tide Horror. And they have too low attack skill to probably really be able to do much to it. I was gonna say, go around. What are you doing? Oh my god. Okay, this is absolutely a scenario where the AI of the game is just silly. Right, and I've talked about this before. I definitely think that bigger creatures, right, like a size 6 creature, should be able to push, should be able to, like, coming through, right, to individuals on its own side and be like, make way, right? You know, that type of thing. Because why would units fighting on the same size as each other not let the giant man come through to go smash the thing that they're fighting, right? Or at the very least, right, if you can't do that, just make the AI smart enough to go the fuck around. Like, come on. This is I have a lot of little nitpicks about Dominions and the way that it works and everything like that. But this is a legitimate complaint. This type of stuff is just bad. Right? Like, because it creates situations like this where it's like, okay, I could be smacking the crap out of this guy right now. But instead, that's not happening. Oh. And amusingly, this guy does not do a crazy amount of damage. So he's actually having a hard time killing these earth elementals. Cast a spell, maybe? I don't know, do anything? Really? I think you might be able to see where we're going with this. We've faced off against Gore-Tide horrors in the past. And it does not take but a few turns for the damage from a Firebrand and a Scutado Volturnus with Shocking Grasp, right? To be able to cut through a Gore-Tide horror. Oh boy. So I knew this was a risk, right? And what I mean by this is the fact that we actually have not a crazy amount, but we have a fair amount of troops on our god. Because our god has very, very good leadership, and I've outfitted him with leadership items to further boost that leadership. Because we've faced issues with fear bombs in the past, right? So, trying to do what I can against that. And, of course, we knew that that was a potential risk because our god is horror marked. There's a high chance that our god gets attacked by some horrors, but our god can take on the majority of horrors until you get into the realm of I always forget what their damn name is. Doom horrors, right? I don't think we've lost against a Gore-Tide on our god, period, but we might have in the past. But we absolutely should not have lost that. That loss right there, one, it hurts for a number of different reasons, but it hurts. And it is incredibly frustrating because there was almost no reason for it to happen, right? I am relatively sure, I would have to go back and check the turns, but I'm relatively sure our god is set on conservative. Sorry, I have a throat thing going on. Our god is set on conservative gem usage. Doesn't matter in an assassination, which is annoying, right? So he casts a spell that has no chance. He uses gems to cast a spell that has no chance of actually doing anything to this Gore-Tide. Which automatically is just like, okay, thanks AI, that's real useful, I appreciate that, right? But then he refuses to go around and attack the Gore-Tide from behind, or to just cast any spells, right? He cast 3 spells, and then the AI decided, okay, it's attack time, right? End of discussion. Cannot go back to casting spells, which I think is stupid in the first place. I think that AI units that cannot close to attack something or have no ranged attacks to shoot something, right, should then default to casting spells if they have the ability to. Right? Like, you and maybe there's a setting that you can change to where they're, like, defensive or offensive, or maybe even, like, an offensive, defensive, or, like, a low encumbrance option, right? Like, I don't want this person to become fatigued, so if you checkmark that, they won't cast spells, or they're only cast spells as long as it keeps them unfatigued, etc. You know, that type of thing. Regardless, you know, obviously, if our god had not cast Living Earth, or just gone around and attacked the Gore-Tide from the location that it could, we would have just killed that thing, and this would not be an issue. But now we have part of our army, again, not a massive part, but a decent-sized chunk, right, of our army, no longer with the rest of the army, potentially. And we have lost our blessing for probably for a few of the most important turns in the game, right? However long, I think we're actually like relatively early on in the year, so we probably won't get our god back before the game ends, depending, right? So that is very frustrating. It would be one thing if we had gotten attacked by a Doom Horror, a Hunter of Heroes, or a, any of those types of things, right? That would have been unfortunate, unlucky, right? But, I mean, it's a risk, and it would have been like, oh, shit, he got us, fuck, damn it, right? But instead, we lose a battle we have won multiple times, and now we are on the back foot because of it. So, very frustrating. Not a huge fan of how that turns out, but it is what it is. Okay, so those are the horror attacks, and really, we're going to jump into what are the important things, and we'll do them by order of importance, because all of that is moot if we end the game this turn. So the battle that ends the game this turn is Jabal Kish. Watch this. So, this is our army. We know what it does. We've seen it before. This is what Lanka has arrayed against us. We can see darkness up from the Mandehas immediately. Darkness is semi-useful against us. Our Kusarikus have spirit sight, so they don't matter. It does affect, I think, the corpse constructs. I'm not sure. I don't know if the undead cares about it or not. But it affects all of our regular units. Enkidu Spear Guard, Enki's Chosen, etc. Expects, our Mushushus. It affects our Anzus, etc. So that is annoying. But then there's a whole bunch of vampires, a fair amount of liches. There's Kokabel the Grigory. There's a golem here. And there's just a pretty big mixture of various chaff. But altogether, a pretty small army in comparison. Probably about 200-ish or so. We're just going to play this out and see how it goes. So, I'm going to try to, because we know what we're doing. I'm going to try to keep an eye on what's going on over here. Okay, so a bunch of Horde of skeletons coming out from the vampires, and we get Time Stop. As we get Time Stop, we also get a Divine Blessing on his side, along with Anti-Magic and some Sabbaths going out. Got a Wooden Warriors, etc. Okay, so what happens in the space of the Time Stop? Kind of the question. Got some more Sabbaths. There's a Master in there. We've got a Doom that comes out. Okay. Kokabel is now a Communion Master. And we can see there are 14 slaves, so this is a magic boost of 3. Cool. So I did recently find out that apparently boosted levels in a communion do not count towards your penetration for the spells. It will allow you to cast the spell, right? But it doesn't increase the penetration. I always thought it did, but apparently not. We have Natural Storm up from our side, and we have the Pegasi, dropping down. And then we get the Master Enslave, or we're getting a Master Enslave coming out from Kokabel. So, let's see how this goes. Got a Relief, got a Demon Cleansing, and there is the Master Enslave. And we can see right off the bat, right? A number of Pegasus riders do get hit, but we already have our army of lead up, so we are resistant, fairly resistant to this. But he gets, how many does he get? He gets 1, 2, 3, 4 Pegasus riders, right? And let's see, do we get a whole huge swath of yellow? So it's not a huge swath, but there are a fair number of thralls and guards that get hits. We've got a Moshushu mixed in. It looks like we've got 2 Anzus. So a fair number, honestly, truth be told. Is it going to make the difference? Fog Warriors goes up. Wailing Winds goes up. And here's what I'm somewhat concerned about. Rigor Mortis goes up at this point. And Rigor Mortis is very scary to me because, look, so much of his army is already undead. And we have a fair amount of undead here as well. However, my goodness. That was Undead Mastery. So he tried to steal all of our undead and actually did a pretty good job of it. So this sucks now. Now we have been hit with a Master and Slave, and we've been hit with a Undead Mastery, which I should have been casting, probably. Should have been bringing in a super high level Death Mage. Honestly, no idea why I haven't been casting, bringing in a high pin Undead Mastery Mage. So, our Anzus go up. They come down. We've got Light of the Northern Star coming up. We've got a bunch of air elementals out. And even though we got hit pretty hard with Master and Slave and with that Undead Mastery, we are pushing on the rear with our Pegasi and Anzus, and it does look like we are mostly successful out front. No major routes or anything just yet. Speed up just a little bit. Anzu's still doing work in the backfield. Like we're slowly pushing forward. Slowly pushing forward. Bone Grinding goes out. And yeah, looks like we win. Now is a question of what did we lose to get here? Because this is the exterior battle. Right? Clean this all off. Looks like, well, we are getting some routing. Silly. I don't know why we're routing when we're winning so handily. Okay, we have defeated the attacking forces from Lanka, found a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, cool. We destroyed, that was closer to 350. Gotcha. I thought it was about 200 something. We did a lot of work, honestly, there. Killed a bunch of Liches, some Mound Kings, killed a Queen of Storms, a bunch of Raktapatas, a fair amount of Vampire Lords, although some of, about half of them did survive. We did get the Grigory. Kokobel died. And we killed a whole crap ton of undead. Unfortunately, we did get hit pretty hard, mostly in the vein of our corpse constructs. Most of our corpse constructs are either dead now or they were taken from us, basically. We lost a Lich, a Gudu, 2 of our crystal sorceresses, and a fair assortment of chaff. Our Kusarikus did great. Super good job killing. Our Anzus, which we did lose 4 of, unfortunately. 2 of them to the Enslave, right? They did great work. If we had probably 20 or 30 Anzus, I would actually not be super afraid. But I'm still pretty afraid. So, that wasn't horrible? Question mark? Okay, so retreat details, and that's when you start to see the oh. Oh, okay. We didn't lose a crap ton of our gurus, or a crap ton of our shamans, or sorceresses, necessarily. But the motherfuckers ran like crazy. And I feel like I'm just gonna get to the point to where, like, in any in-game situation, I'm gonna be like, okay, well, every single thing in existence, if I get to, like, turn 100, it's gonna be like, okay, every single thing that exists, if it's not undead or demon, right, it gets a dragon helm, it gets one of the morale boosting males, it gets a ring of the warrior, right? Because, like, it's morale is almost to the point to where it is absurd. We won that pretty handily. I say pretty handily. 800 to 200. I mean, he dealt damage to us, but it was a victory, right? A solid victory for us. A Vampire Lord, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 20 mid-20s, retreating commanders. At this point, those are more of my losses. I mean, aside from chaff, obviously, aside from infantry, those are more of my losses than the actual battles are. And this is a point of frustration for me, I guess, just from having done this for so long, or having played this game for so long. That's honestly what most of these battles post turn 100 have been, right? Most of the battles post turn 100, I either stomp, I say stomp, right? I win, or there are a bunch of morale effects stacked, and my army just routes like crazy. Even if they could win, they just route like crazy. Or it is a fatigue stack, and my army gets fatigued out and dies. And that is situationally frustrating. It's kind of like how I felt about Astral Corruption right when it first went up in the game. I was super duper optimistic. I was like, oh shit, Astral Corruption's up. All right, well, let's think about this. What can we do to combat Astral Corruption? Oh, well, we'll make a bunch of rings of warning so that we can take a bunch of bodyguards in with us to things. That didn't work for shit. Right? It was like, okay, well, you know, we'll try XYZ to try to, and then it just came to the realization of, yeah, no, you're kind of just fucked, right? Like, there's not really a lot of counterplay to it. So, I kind of feel like late game fights are either you have a super combatant that can take on an army like what we have here, right? Or you have a trick, a way to morale bomb or fatigue bomb the opposing army. And if you don't have one of those three, right, then it's basically just which army is bigger, better equipped, and more buffs. You know? And that's fine in theory, right? Conceptually. But it really makes it makes me feel like I don't have a lot of counterplay options. And this is, I know when I say this is coming from an inexperienced player, right? So I know there are counterplay options. I'm just not experienced enough to have discovered them, right? Or I assume there are counterplay options. But it feels very, I don't know, it feels like if I know I'm going to go up against a fear bomb, is there even a point in me making morale boosting armies or items? Because it honestly feels like half the time it doesn't matter. Like we ended up winning out against Hinnom, not because we spent all that time making morale gear, but eventually just because we raided Hinnom down and Hinnom couldn't afford anything anymore. So when we actually ended up fighting, there wasn't much to fight, you know? So it was just like, I don't even know if that works. Now, obviously, we didn't do that here. So, you know, this is, take my complaints with a grain of salt. But it just feels somewhat frustrating. It seems, for all the variety in the game, and I think this actually kind of goes back to some of the, I might talk about this eventually. I might make a video about my thoughts of Dominions 5 in general, like the state of the game. But it absolutely does feel like in the late game, everyone just has everything. So it feels like it gets to the point to where everyone's capable of casting all of the same buffs, right? Some more easily than others, sure. And that does matter, but it feels like every army at turn 100 is gonna have all of the buffs that they want or need up. So then it becomes a matter of not the buffs, it becomes the matter of certain tricks that you can pull, or just like certain quality indicators for your nation. And that makes me think, that makes me feel or wish that it was harder to diversify your nation, right? Harder to break into blood, harder to path boost, harder to get cross paths for these special things. Wishing there was more special things for different cross paths, etc., to make things more unique, etc. Just in general, it feels very samey at the end of the game. That being said, again, probably complaints coming from an inexperienced player. This was really cool. I'm glad we won. I'm glad that Gregory is dead. But it was really kind of frustrating to see so many units retreat from a victory. All right. So we won in Jabal Kish. That's the exterior battle. Now we have the interior battle. Okay, so we still have a sizable army here. We still have a... We lost basically our front line of corpse constructs, but we still have a strong front line of Kusarikus. We still have a handful of Anzus. We still have a handful of Mushushus, etc. So I'm hoping that things are going to go pretty well. What are we arrayed against, though? My God. What was sent out against us was a mere fraction of what awaited us. Okay. He's got a crap ton here. Whole bunch of corpse constructs, fair amount of storm demons, bunch of just long dead chaff, a couple of heliophagi, a Mundeha. We've got the Queen of Clouds. Do we have another Queen of Air, elemental air anywhere in here? A whole bunch of units, multiple Mundehas, a Tart, a Flame Spirit. All right, let's see how things go. The Storm Demons begin their assault. We've got Gudus doing their shtick. Natural Storm comes up. Demon Cleansing comes up. Wailing Winds comes up, but from the side of the enemy. We have our Army of Lead up. We have our Mass Regeneration up. And fortunately, I do think this, right? we still have our buff, our bless, because our god died this turn. So I guess technically he's still with us at this point in time, potentially. Right, so the game, I think, gives us that. Yeah, because we still have natural protection and regeneration. So there is that. And then we get Rigor Mortis that comes out. Okay. Kusarikus are moving forward. Did we have our... Yeah, we have our Gaia's Blessing up. We have our air shield. Right, that's all good. Some pillars of fire coming out from Blanca's side. We get... they get a relief. Not us. So we did not put up relief. And there's a blood rain. So we can now see, just looking, right? This random Gudu has 3 morale. Because it has a base of 9 morale. Okay. That's going to be a thing. It's definitely going to be a thing. Alright. This is mostly going to be a infantry fight, it seems like. From our side, anyways. We don't have that many Gudus here. Our Anzus are in the back line, but there are so many undead. Daifa. Look at that breath, though. It does just destroy. Like I said, if I had like 20 or 30 Anzus in this army, I honestly would not be that worried. I think we would crush. The amount of power inherent in Anzus, I think, is something that I significantly underestimated throughout the majority of the game. And I think if I could go back and do it again, I would have risked Ugalus, right? Like, I would have created additional... I would have had, you know... I would have tried to create additional Ugalus or other comparable air casters, and I would have just produced more Anzus. Like, and just be like, look, I'm gonna lose the casters to Astral Corruption here or there, but if I get more Anzus, then the battles are easily mine. Because these things are crazy. Crazy, crazy good. Okay. I'm going to speed up just slightly. We are choked in the center. And this is primarily because of Rigor Mortis. Because... our infantry are easily, our Kusarikus, our Mushushus are easily superior to 99% of the infantry that Blanca has in this battle. But if they can't attack, if they're over 100 fatigue, it doesn't matter. There's nothing that they can do. And that's basically what it is. In point of fact, I don't think there's anything that I have, except for apparently this one Mushushu, that isn't fatigued out at this point. So, that's really bad. That's really, really, really bad. This is a combination of a number of things, right? Losing so many units, not having enough gems for everything that I wanted to do. Not having a good plan for Rigor Mortis. And honestly, I don't know that there are great plans for Rigor Mortis. Relief can help somewhat, but only a little bit. I think one of the only things you can do against Rigor Mortis in a big battle like this, where a good portion of the enemy's side is undead, and you're pretty sure you're gonna have to face up against Rigor Mortis, you have to do battlefield evocations, like Flamestorm or something like that, or Firestorm or whatever, and hope that it kills the Rigor Mortis caster or routes the Rigor Mortis caster. You can put up Relief to kind of help you, but it's not gonna outperform Rigor Mortis. Or you can do a, I think like you can take like a super combatant that is really well geared, but functionally has a lot of reinvigoration, and that can make them resistant to Rigor Mortis. Or you can have Tartarians. Like the Tartarians, typically speaking, they won't give a shit about Rigor Mortis. So if you have a bunch of tarts, which we would have had a bunch of tarts, we misused our tarts in the late game, in the late mid game, whatever. Between turns like 120 and now, we kind of really misused our tarts compared to what we could have done. Which means the armies of Lanka are routed. I have 1, 2, 4, 5 units on the field. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. 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 Ah! So that happened. That battle took so long that both sides routed. And this is all that remains for Lanka. Actually interesting. So that's, and I love the timing of this. This is the last thing that I know that you can potentially do against Lanka, or not Lanka, against Rigor Mortis. And that is just not die. If you have a unit that as super combatant, well, I guess we kind of talked about this, but I meant it in a different way. If you have a super combatant that you can throw out there that is basically unkillable, you can get it to where that thing's gonna fatigue out, right, and get super duper fatigued. But if they can't kill it before the turn times, then while it's slowly but surely unfatiguing, the entire rest of the enemy army can just rout and die. And that is not quite what happened here. We didn't have a super combatant that was just super crazy and tough to kill. But we did have an army that was pretty tough to kill and took Lanka very, very long to chew through. And eventually, we got very close, but no cigar. So, Jabal Kish, we failed to capture the fortress. We lost 334 units. We have over 100 units that routed. We killed basically we didn't do it. We didn't do it. They did it to themselves. Basically killed everything. Archdevil, the Dakinis, bunch of flame spirits, all of these different mages, right? This was a big loss for Lanka. Well, a big Pyrrhic victory for Lanka. And that's going to take us to the next thing we're going to watch is actually, in my opinion, the most important battle of this turn. And it's not Javal Kish. I mean, obviously, right, if we just out and out lost the first battle, then this would be irrelevant. If we had just out and out won the second battle, this would be irrelevant. So obviously those two battles are technically more important. But with things having gone the way that they did, there is one battle that is the most important because of that. And that's in Mag. Because I attacked Mag knowing that because we've been through this in the past, knowing that there was the chance that we would lose in Javal Kish and I would need a safe avenue of retreat. So we threw a fair number of vampires at Mag. Vampires that could have been in the Javal Kish initial battle, at least. Right? And there's actually a pretty large army here because Lunka had the same idea. But let's see how this goes. We have Life for Life come out. And unfortunately, so I like to do Life for Life because of Vampire Lords, Tartarians, things like that. It can still hit them, but not Liches. It's not going to do crap against Liches. So there is a fairly large amount of undead here. We've got Fiends of Darkness in the backfield, which are good, but they're not good enough to take on... This amount of them is not good enough to take on this amount of undead. Right? So they're doing their shtick. If they had assassinated a Lich or two, that would have been really good. Our undead is trying to deal with what's going on. But here's part of the problem. Is a lot of these vampire lords are set on Life for Life and not on Horde of Skeletons, etc., etc. So what ends up happening is... the initial larger number of forces is complemented by the fact that there are several Liches here. And while we have our own Lich and several vampires, it looks like we are slowly but surely pushing. But I don't think that that's actually the case, because now our Storm Demons are all kind of like... So, the armies of Lanka are routed, excepting that they're not, because they're Liches. They're the undead, so they don't rout like that. And again, we're just fatigued out. And that's that. Kahioi. Kahioi. This was the most important battle, and it was also a battle I should not have lost, and we'll talk more about why. But I did lose it, so there's no reason to watch anymore. Last super important battle is the battle in Sleepy Wolds, right? Right here, right now, this could determine whether or not our play to end the game is done. If we just got our asses kicked in Sleepy Wolds, then we're probably screwed. Fortunately, there is not a whole lot going on here. A smattering of the undead, a couple of golems sent to screw with us, and a Queen of Thunder. So, let's see what goes down. We land and immediately send one of the golems home. Another golem goes, and this is kind of just... This is a quick stomp. However, It's not an easy stomp. Because we're gonna watch that again. There's a specific thing that I think I'm looking for. Soul Slay, Soul Slay. Doom. Doom is always a pain. I don't know who cast it. I'm not sure where it is. It, what the fuck? This guy? It's... Alright, I was looking for it. I just couldn't remember where the fuck it was. So, that. Right there. Alright. We stop this, but for it, we lose a fair amount. 98 is not a massive loss against something like 250, but it's what we lose that matters, right? We lose some Pegasus Riders, which is a bit painful. We lose some Anzus, which is very painful. We lose a fair little chunk of all of our infantry, because this is basically, Wind of Death is just, you know, do you resist it? Does it tick you down all the way? Etc. And it does the decent spread across everything, meaning it gets a good portion of our Shamans, it gets a good portion of our Gurus, it gets a good portion of our sorceresses. So this is a big pain, including one each of our NCs and Enkidu Shamans. So just a great usage of Wind of Death, honestly. Wind of Death is also very difficult to do anything against. And in this type of scenario, right? He's hurting himself to make sure he hurts me. You know? Wind of Death contributed to him losing certain people in this fight. But at the end of the day, it did way more than, you know, just the units would have done. So, very, very good. Alright, so we win in Javalkish, then we lose in Javalkish, we lose in Mag, which is super important and super unfortunate. We win in Sleepy Wolves, so we are on the fortress there, but it is a harsh win. We had a lot of bad luck, but also misplays, etc., etc. I'm not gonna worry about, honestly, all of the rest of the battles are pretty much nothing. Just raiding, counter raiding, etc. They're not important. What is important is we talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about next turn, and we're going to talk about why I should not have lost Mag, and it was just fatigue and oversight and trying to get through things. I have 700 thralls here, and while thralls are not great, 700 of them accompanying this many liches and vampire lords are absolutely enough to overwhelm this force of long dead, take Mag, and secure for ourselves an exit out of Javalkish, which means at that point, even if I lose horrendously, lose a crap ton of thralls, it still puts us at something like 300, 400 thralls, and all of the forces of Javalkish that routed, which are over 100, including an NC, right, could have walked right back onto Javalkish, and he does not have anything in that fortification. So that's why I think Mag, honestly, as much as losing the first battle of Javalkish obviously would have been an ender, winning the second battle of Javalkish obviously would have been an ender. Aside from those two things, I think the battle in Mag, which was a massive oversight on me, I knew it was an important battle, and then I just didn't commit all of the forces that I could have and should have committed. And if I had, that might have been an entirely different thing. Because now, if I had, and we held Mag, and we had an NC there, right, we could turn right back around and march on Javalkish, and he would have to respond to Sleepy Wolds and Javalkish. As it is, he's only going to have to respond to Sleepy Wolds now. So, Sleepy Wolds, we lost a lot of units because of our god, but as you can see, like, not that many. So we are ferrying them in with what we can. There's a bunch of stuff that routed into Sinkhole Swamp from the battle at Sleepy Wolds. We're going to bring them in. We're bringing in more vampires. We're bringing in more vampires. We're bringing in everything that we can from everywhere that we can. We are storming the fort this turn. We already know everything that we can do. The only other thing that we are adding into the mix that we have not had before, and this is something that I've already kind of talked about, is the hope that we can try to counter something like Rigor Mortis with something like this army is so freaking huge. Something like Firestorm. So fingers crossed. That is probably the one thing that I haven't been seeing in my battles with Lanka is big battlefield-wide evocations like Firestorm or you know, the Thunders, the whichever one, something Skies. It's not Shimmering Fields. Shimmering Fields is the singular one, but that. So hopefully that does the trick for us. Other than that, we are casting another Flames from the Sky at Oak Beach, I think? Toledo. So we're casting at Toledo, trying to hurt this army that's coming in. And we are Cloud Trapezing onto Oak Beach with a Tart. We are Cloud Trapezing onto Toledo with an Oogaloo. And we are Cloud Trapezing or teleporting onto Oak Beach with a Tart. The intent here is to try to prevent these armies from participating in the battle at Sleepy Wolds. And we are risking our Gale Gate for this. And we're already risking our Maelstrom and our Stellar Focus in the actual battle of Sleepy Wolds anyways. So that's pretty much it. It's all on the line. Everything else that's happening is just very inconsequential raiding, counter-raiding, or maneuvering back into things. Attacking onto Trackless Wastes because why not? We're gonna try to just dick around there, you know. And yeah, that's about it. Heartbreaking losses, but every turn I feel us closer and closer to the end of the game, and I'm just like, all right. Let's do it, Lunga. Let's finish this. I don't care which one of us wins. I do care. I absolutely do care. I want to win. But at the same time, if we don't, Lanka has run a very good game. And even at this point, like, Rising Out of the Depths, Relay, We'll see what happens. So, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.